Thank you for tuning in to another video in the series of The Berry Chronicles, which is a story about my journey starting in September of 2017 and learning that I was donor conceived just a few days before my 33rd birthday. Everything in The Berry Chronicles is an experience and navigation of the things that have happened since then, both in a literal sense, discovering new siblings, for example, and also to an emotional sense of all of the unpacking that comes with finding something out like that at any point in your life, particularly at a later stage in life. So this is the latest video in the series. It's called A Bigger Family Affair, and it starts on August 18th, 2018. Being told in your early 30s that you're donor conceived is not a conversation that happens once, then disappears into the abyss. Not even close. The questions of origin abound, then they shift and eventually reappear, days at a time, weeks at a time. In some ways, they never go away. Yet, an irony of learning you're not your father's biological son is that you always have a clear answer to a profound question. How badly was I wanted? The answer for me has undoubtedly been near the top of the scale. But nothing else is clear, down to the toddler level questions of where did this baby come from? I honestly can't tell you how we found out about artificial insemination as an option, my mom says. It was very new to us. I'd never heard of artificial insemination or a doctor who did it. I thought, oh, this is a possible option. I came home to tell Dad about it and was excited to tell him I'd be able to carry our child. And I considered that we didn't want to or didn't have to come off the adoption list. The combo of doing both would be like a twofer. We could start and grow our family. Except her excitement wasn't immediately shared by my dad. This is what he said. He said, to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you when I came around to that. It could have been right away. This conversation was happening on the couch in my parents' living room, and I looked over and my mom is shaking her head no. He sees that, so he says, well, I was probably still in my head about not being able to father a child. But it didn't take long for a change of heart. My mom says it was within the week that he came along, which is honestly much quicker than I would have guessed. He continues, it could have been something I saw or read. It said you don't have to be a father of a child. You don't have to father a child to be a father. Or someone told me that. I got to thinking about it. You don't have to father a child to be a father. Essentially because I would have been a father to a kid I was going to adopt. And so obviously I said yes. These, again, are his words. And he smiles at me. They started the procedure, which was, in fact, a process. It took about a year. My mom says I didn't need hormones. It was me doing my basal cell thermometer every day. And once I was ovulating, I had to call the doctor's office. It was a 2 to 3 day window. I'd have to get into the office and be... She pauses, gesturing with her hands. Yeah, I get it. My dad jumped back in. I went with Mom every time, so I'd feel like I would be part of it. And he only further is sort of developing this real-time humanization that I'm seeing of him, like he's being colored in and brought to life before my eyes. Finally, close over a year after starting the treatments, they got a phone call that they'd been desperate for, that they'd been dreaming of for close to 5 years. It was early January 1984. To say your dad was an emotional wreck would be an understatement. He was like a puddle on the floor, my mom explains. And she looks over to him, love in its purest form in her eyes. We were pregnant. In her eyes, I can see once more why we tell our stories. They replenish life in us and open the windows through which life passes from one person to another. And right now I see my parents in a way I haven't seen them before. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, an author, said, many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign. But stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. I'd had 8 months to digest the undigestible since I found out this truth. And the last words of that quote hang above me like a raindrop on a ledge. Stories can also repair that broken dignity. I'll never know the weight they carried, my parents, if their self-respect or their identity had wavered in the becoming of me. In this moment, though, I see the restoration of a damaged story. Not for what it lacked, but for the players who felt that they were perhaps damaged because of it. But no more. We didn't know what we were having, and our doctor didn't do ultrasounds for gender. She was a no-nonsense lady in that way. That's unnecessary intervention, she'd said. You only do a test that's meaningful, and gender isn't. Turns out, up until the day I was born, they didn't know if I would be a boy or a girl. My dad recalls, I remember thinking, well, we want kids, we can have kids this way. We were excited about it, that mom could carry the child and it could still be a natural birth. Let's put it this way, we'd waited so long, we were truly over the moon excited. From the time we knew she was pregnant, nothing about that excitement changed because of how we did it. We never wondered otherwise about who you were to us. On September 24th, 1984, at 10:27 a.m., they got their wish. Later that day, time's grace has a penchant for smoothing rough edges, if you're willing to see them, to take time, to take risks for them. A brother, a sister, 2 other mothers, and a since-passed father. A baptism by saliva into a vault of secrets shared by would-be strangers. All brought here by vials of sperm, secured through a sure-handed grip and some 80s porno magazines. Is that crass? Maybe. But it's real. 3 families waited on one side of the wall, with fears and hopes, all brought to the altar of a want that could only be cured by that which took place on the other side of that wall. Then, 30-some-odd years later, here you are, all of you. You are family in the least conventional way, and yet, it's the lack of convention that assures your tightly chained sense of self to now be irrevocably tied to the next link. Your brother, your sister, their wide-eyed parents. And a reintroduction to that question you picked off the shelf just long enough to dust it off and put it back. Where do I come from? 11 months have passed since I unceremoniously learned that my dad isn't my biological father. 11 months to the day to bring to a warm, happy climax to a story which just as well could have been filed away without a happy ending. It peaks here in the meeting of 11 would-be strangers who would be just that, strangers, if not for the inextricable link of donor sperm. Today, August 18th, 2018, there's me, my brother Thomas, my sister Morgan, and our respective families. Lynn, Thomas's mom, Marlene, Morgan's mom, Jared, Morgan's husband, Brandon and Carly, Morgan's kids, and Sarah, my sister, and her boyfriend Mike, and Chuck and Karen, my parents. We are all in the same place, the same house, the same table. Finally. 11 months ago, the idea of any of this was a total outrage. Siblings, sperm donors, mashing all 3 affected families together in one beautiful, poetic, and unlikely dinner party. But this has become my life. Admittedly, I didn't come to any of this in search of a resolution to a deep, dark secret, or in a relentless search for long-lost family. But that's what I got. It took 11 months to the day to achieve a singular moment, since my reality unraveled, where I could say, and now, all is right with the world. This was resisted. This was fought for. But in time, I was able to ease the players on my side into the truth and joy of my new reality. If not at first, at least in increments. So, it was 11 months in the making, but in truth, it's been so for more than 30 years. I have few moments as an adult that have brought me greater joy. Our 3 mothers and my father all sitting around one table under the falling sun of a pleasant August night when the world had made other plans and ours were all that are. And just on the lower side of the deck, 20 feet away, are my sister Sarah with my brother Thomas and my new sister's husband, Jared. Morgan and I are standing side by side as our worlds crash to our left and our right, and we know that our lives have come full circle. Our families are one now. I sleep as soundly as I ever have that night, wrapped in blankets that cloak me in peace. At 7 a.m. the next morning, I roll over to pause the alarm on my phone. There's a text from Thomas to me and Morgan. So, he begins, I woke up to a message on 23andMe this morning. The rest of the texts read like a practical joke. We have another sibling. Twins, actually. That's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I look forward to sharing the rest of it with you next week. Thank you again for watching. Please share with your friends and subscribe if you haven't.